If you thought I was going to let you rob my house on Christmas Eve, then get ready, because I'm not just a kid. I own the territory. In the first image the viewer sees, even before understanding who the boy is, why he's alone, or how it all began, the camera plunges straight into the most chaotic moment of the story. Two clumsy thieves, covered in flour, red paint, and feathers stuck to their faces, slip on the living room floor as if they had fallen into a giant washing machine, while the little boy, according to 9-year-old Theo, watches everything from the top of the stairs, holding a small silver bucket ready to become yet another trap. Christmas lights twinkle behind him, reflecting off the banister, the floor, and even the chaos erupting below. The clock strikes midnight, and while the bandits desperately try to get up, Theo smiles with that childlike smile that mixes courage, adrenaline, and pure mischief, the kind of smile that immediately tells the audience they're not looking at an ordinary boy. He's not a perfect hero, but he's intelligent, quick, creative, and he's using every inch of the decorated house to transform the place into a homemade battlefield. One of the thieves slips and falls again, hitting his head on a bag of fake presents Theo prepared, and the other shouts, "Who was the devil who set this up?" Theo calmly replies, adjusting his red hat that fell to the side, "I just wanted to have a peaceful Christmas. But you guys started it." Snow falls outside, the sound of church bells echoes in the distance, and for a moment, the viewer knows they are about to witness the craziest, funniest, and most unpredictable night of that boy's life. And the thieves' lives too. This is where the story really starts to heat up. Before we delve into this amazing story, tell me which city and state you're watching from. Leave a comment, and I'll reply with gratitude. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like this video. We want to share more stories like this. That Christmas Eve morning, the street where Theo lived seemed to have been swallowed up by a decoration catalogue. Glittering reindeer in the neighbor's garden, a huge inflatable Santa Claus on the corner house, twinkling lights of every color vying for space in the windows, and snow covering everything as if someone had thrown flour all over the city. Inside Theo's house, the atmosphere was the opposite of peaceful. Open suitcases, coats being thrown onto the sofa, people running from one side to the other, and his mother repeating aloud for the third time, "If we miss this bus, there's no Christmas at Grandma's house, okay?" Theo, 9 years old, with messy hair and a red sweatshirt with a reindeer design, tried to keep up with the pace of the rush while holding a plate of tree-shaped cookies that he himself had helped cut the night before. He loved Christmas, but he had to admit this was the most stressful Christmas ever. The family's plan was simple: travel to spend the night at his grandmother's house, a lady who lived in another city, where the whole family would gather, cousins, uncles, everyone. But amidst the luggage and the anxiety, no one seemed to notice that Theo, the youngest in the house, was always one step behind, trying to be heard. "Mom, have you seen my blue toy car?" he asked, raising his voice as his mother put documents in a bag. "Theo, not now, son. Get another toy, please," she replied without even looking. His father was on the phone solving a work problem. His teenage sister was complaining that the internet was slow and no one had charged her cell phone, and the family dog was chasing a red ribbon he had found on the floor. The house was full, alive, noisy, and at the same time, Theo felt that no one really listened to him. Amidst all that chaos on the other side of town, two men watched Theo's street from inside an old car, discreetly parked on the corner, Murillo and Tigro, a nickname he gave himself, though nobody took it seriously, were petty thieves, specialists in terrible plans and disastrous executions. They had spent the last few days observing the larger, more decorated houses, noting who would be traveling for Christmas, who would or wouldn't turn off their lights, who usually went out at night. When Murillo's eyes landed on Theo's house, with that gigantic tree visible from the window and boxes stacked near the door, he gave a crooked smile. "Look, This house looks like it's going to be empty tonight, Tigran. See the suitcases? See the movement? I bet there are more presents in there than in the whole mall, he commented, adjusting his cap. Tigran, eating a snack, agreed wholeheartedly. We just wait for them to leave, go in quietly, grab everything, and that's it. Christmas guaranteed, partner. For them, it was the perfect plan. A quiet street, neighbors distracted with dinner, snow muffling the noise, and a family clearly too busy to suspect anything. What they didn't know, and certainly couldn't imagine, was that this wouldn't be an easy robbery. In fact, it would be the most traumatic, confusing, and painfully funny night of their lives. Inside the house, the mother finally finished checking everything. Documents, gifts for grandma, pillows for the trip, medicine, even the panettone they would take. The father announced that the car for the shared ride was already arriving. Everyone, let's go, let's go. Everyone to the door in 3 minutes, he shouted. Theo dropped his plate of cookies on the table and ran to get his favorite toy, which was on the sofa under a pile of coats. When he bent down to look for it, the dog took advantage of the moment and jumped on the plate of cookies, knocking half of them to the floor. His sister appeared complaining that someone had messed up her Christmas playlist. The mother went back to clean up the crushed cookies. The father went out to see if the car had arrived yet. All at the same time. In the rush, the mother shouted, "Where's Theo? Is everyone ready?" The sister replied without even looking, "He's upstairs getting toys. He'll be right back. Relax." But Theo wasn't upstairs. He was behind the sofa, still searching for the doll, while the confusion grew. His mother trusted the answer, grabbed the suitcase, helped her sister, called the dog, and everyone started to leave. "Come on, everyone, come on," the father repeated. "Mum, the key, the panettone, the charger, turn off the gas, lock the kitchen window." The house seemed to be in the middle of a hurricane, and in the midst of this hurricane, no one noticed that an essential person hadn't come through the door. When the last suitcase was put in the car, when the dog was already settled in the back seat, when the door was hastily locked, the street fell silent, the car drove off, and Theo remained inside the house. For a few minutes, he didn't even notice. When he finally found the doll under the sofa, he stood up, covered in dust, sneezed and shouted, "Mom, look, I found it, now let's go." Silence answered. He frowned, walked to the hallway, saw the empty bedrooms, the bathroom with the light off, the kitchen too tidy. "Mom?" he called again, a little louder. Nothing. He went to the front door, saw the coat rack practically empty, with only his father's scarf that he had forgotten, and felt the first different kind of cold, not the cold of the snow outside, but the cold of his heart sinking into his stomach. He opened the door, looked at the street. No cars, no suitcases, no sign of the family. The neighbor's inflatable Santa Claus stared at him with a crooked smile. Theo swallowed hard. It took a few seconds for his mind, as fast and dramatic as any child's, to reach an absurd yet perfectly logical conclusion. They forgot about me. The phrase echoed in the empty room, as if the universe had pressed play on a movie. He repeated it more quietly, testing the weight of the words. They forgot about me. A mixture of shock and freedom began to swirl within him. Yes, it was frightening. But at the same time, it was as if the world had become a little more dangerous and interesting. At first, Theo did what any child would do when they discover they have the whole house to themselves. He ran down the hallway screaming, jumped on the sofa without anyone telling him to get down, turned the TV up to maximum volume, opened the refrigerator and grabbed exactly what he wanted: soda, chocolate, a piece of cake that was forbidden before dinner. He walked in his socks down the slippery hallway, tried on his father's coat, put on his sister's hat, looked at himself in the mirror, and made faces. For a few minutes, fear gave way to an uncontrollable euphoria. "I'm in charge here now," he murmured, opening his arms in the middle of the room as if he were the king of the castle. But as the hours passed, the daylight faded, and the shadows of the house began to grow on the walls. Reality began to weigh on again. The wind hit the windows harder. A pipe cracked in the kitchen, the floor creaked. He heard a noise outside, ran to the window and saw the snow thickening, covering the street, the sidewalks, the parked cars. The clock on the wall struck 7 o'clock in the evening. It was Christmas Eve, and he was completely alone. It was at that exact moment that Murillo and Tigran's old car reappeared on the corner, parking discreetly. The two had already discussed the plan 10 times, and yet none of their versions seemed very clever. "We'll go in through the back, break a window, and grab the presents. Quick, no drama," Murillo said, overly confident for someone with so little talent. Tigran, looking through the fogged-up window, saw that the house was dark, with only the Christmas tree lights twinkling in the corner of the living room. "It's perfect, man. The whole family went on a trip for sure. This place smells like a big TV and a new video game console," he replied, rubbing his hands together. They had no idea that behind that curtain, a 9-year-old boy, curious by nature, was observing every movement. Theo saw the car and found it strange. Nobody on that street had that car. He saw 2 silhouettes arguing inside. Years of watching movies and cartoons had made something spark inside him. He hid a little behind the curtain, leaving only a small crack open, and continued watching. When Murillo pointed to the house with his chin and Tigran laughed, Theo felt a chill. "They're going to come in here," he thought, feeling his heart beat faster. For a few seconds, fear almost paralyzed him, but then, as if someone had flipped a switch inside his head, another idea began to gain strength. If he was alone, then no one would come to save him, which meant that he would have to defend himself. And if there was one thing Theo had in abundance, it was imagination. He looked at the living room, the stairs, the scattered toys, the Christmas decorations, and slowly a smile began to appear on his face. "Okay. You want to rob the wrong house?" he murmured, already feeling the adrenaline rising. That night, the living room wouldn't just be a room, it would be the craziest battlefield 2 clumsy thieves could ever know. Night had already fallen over the city when Theo began transforming the entire house into a chaotic amusement park, or, as he liked to think of it, Operation Christmas Defense. The first thing he did was run to the garage, where he found his father's enormous toolbox. Not that he knew how to use half of it, but everything in there seemed extremely useful for scaring off any thief with poor motor coordination. He grabbed ropes, thick duct tape, a powerful flashlight, the hammer, which he decided not to use because it was too heavy, and a box full of screws that made a terrifying sound when shaken. Then he returned to the living room and spread everything on the floor as if he were putting together a secret mission plan for a special agent. His heart was beating so fast it seemed to keep pace with the twinkling lights on the Christmas tree. For a moment, he looked at the top of the stairs, wondering what he could do there. "If I put something there to fall from here," he muttered to himself, and then ran to the cupboard where they kept plastic balls, cushions, and even a small metal bell from the old decorations. While rummaging through the cupboard, he also found a box full of his sister's craft supplies: glitter, glue, red gouache paint, a gigantic paintbrush, and a can of gold spray paint. His eyes lit up. Glitter, he thought, was practically a secret weapon. It sticks forever. If thrown at the right moment, it could blind, delay, confuse. "Perfect," he whispered, holding the jar as if he had just discovered the ultimate power. While planning his little homemade traps, Theo heard the car park outside again. Murillo and Tigran were surveying the house, pacing back and forth, quietly discussing, thinking no one could see them. Theo crouched down by the window and watched, realizing he didn't have much time before they decided to break in. He needed to act fast. He hurried upstairs and stopped in the upstairs hallway, mentally creating the perfect map to take down any intruder. The first trap he prepared was right there in the hallway. He placed liquid soap on the floor, generously spreading it as if he were lubricating a private ice rink, and even sprinkled glitter on top, an artistic touch he considered essential. The second trap involved his sister's room. He tied invisible strings low down, connecting them to the handle of a box full of old books. If someone pushed the door too hard, the box would fall on the intruder instantly. In the bathroom, he positioned a basin full of cold water right above the door, carefully balancing it so that it would fall on any burglar trying to enter. "They're going to get the coldest shower of their lives," said Theo, so excited he even laughed to himself. After preparing the upstairs, he ran downstairs to the kitchen, where he realized he could also use the utensils to his advantage. He put oil on the floor near the back door, stacked aluminum pans on the edge of the counter so they would fall with any bump, and grabbed 2 small frying pans that would work perfectly as noisy shields or drums to scare away the burglars. When he returned to the room, he saw that the 2 men had finally gotten out of the car and were approaching the house, walking stealthily, or trying to. Murillo tripped on the first pile of snow in the garden and almost fell face first onto the grass. Theo put his hand to his mouth to stop himself from laughing. "They're more clumsy than I imagined," he thought, which only increased his confidence. The Christmas tree was twinkling more intensely at that moment, illuminating Theo's face as he prepared his favorite trap, the bucket of red paint hanging from the top of the stairs. He tied the rope to the handrail, adjusted the weight, tested the swing. If someone climbed the ladder quickly, well, they'd come out looking like a cartoon character. When the last trap was ready, Theo turned off all the lights in the house, leaving only the one on the tree on. The atmosphere was perfect, dark, silent, with that delicate, colorful glow mixed with the snow hitting the windows. For a second, he felt like a real film director preparing the most epic scene. He took a deep breath, peeked out the window, and saw Murillo and Tigran finally standing in front of the front door, whispering about the plan. "I'm sure nobody's there, partner. The house is pitch black," said Tigran, convinced. Murillo, more suspicious, replied, "If there's someone, I'll take care of it. Just shout and that's it." That was enough. Theo ran to the hiding place he had chosen, behind the stairs, where he could see part of the living room without being seen, and waited. The thieves, with all the naive confidence that only bad criminals possess, tried to slowly open the door, but it was locked. Then, in the dumbest way possible, Murillo decided to force it open with his shoulder, immediately feeling an unexpected pain that made him yell, "Ouch! Is this real wood?" Tigran rolled his eyes and said, "Leave it to me," giving a kick that only made the door tremble slightly. After 3 failed attempts, Murillo had a brilliant idea. He saw the small, sliding side window, half open for ventilation. "This is how I get in," he declared triumphantly, sticking half his body inside. That's when Theo whispered with a smile, "It started." As soon as Murillo put his foot on the living room floor, he stepped on one of the screws that Theo had strategically placed. He jumped into the air, screaming as if he'd been electrocuted, and fell straight onto the carpet, knocking over the fake presents that Theo had left as bait. The noise alerted Tigran, who tried to go in right after, but ended up slipping on the rug and hitting his forehead on the side of the window. Theo, hiding, almost burst out laughing. When the 2 finally managed to stand up, they observed the silent room and murmured, "That's too easy." Murillo took his first step toward the stairs and was immediately showered with plastic balls that Theo had placed on the step. "What?" he shouted, sliding backward as if he had stepped on pure ice, falling on his back and taking Tigran with him. The 2 rolled until they hit the living room table, which wobbled, knocked over the star ornament, and startled them even more. Theo watched everything with shining eyes, looking like a victorious general, observing the first phase of the operation. "Okay, now you'll want to go back upstairs, and then the good part will begin," he whispered to himself. As if he had heard the boy, Murillo limped up the stairs, irritated and determined to catch whoever the joker in this house was. He climbed the first few steps and, just as he reached the middle of the stairs, Theo pulled the rope attached to the handrail. The bucket of red paint spun down like a rocket and boom! It hit Murillo directly in the face, covering him in red as if he'd plunged his head into a giant pot of ketchup. The impact made him lose his balance and tumble down the entire staircase while screaming, "Ah, my eye!" Tigran, seeing his friend covered in paint, took 2 steps back in shock and stepped exactly on the soda can that Theo had left on the floor. He slipped and fell backward, hitting the rug and knocking over the mini tabletop tree that had been there since the beginning of the decoration. The room turned into absolute chaos. Glitter in the air, paint on the floor, fake presents scattered everywhere, one of the thieves writhing in pain, and the other trying unsuccessfully to get the glitter out of his hair. Theo bit his lip to keep from laughing out loud, but when Murillo shouted, "I hate Christmas," he couldn't resist. He let out a little laugh that echoed in the quiet room, silent enough for the 2 thieves to hear. Their eyes widened. "There's someone in here," murmured Tigran. "And that someone is going to regret it," added Murillo, still dizzy. Theo, however, wasn't afraid. On the contrary, now he was more prepared than ever. Because this wasn't just any Christmas night. It was the first official battle of Operation Christmas Defense, and he still had half the traps ready to use. "Flavia, just say next, and I'll jump into block 3 with 1,000 words, full of chaos, comedy, and a twist." Theo realized that the thieves, even clumsy as they were starting to get too irritated, and irritated thieves are never a good combination with dark houses, slippery hallways, and extremely creative children. He took a deep breath, grabbed the small old walkie-talkie he'd found in his father's drawer, and muttered to himself, "Time for phase 2. Then, as if in a level-based game, he silently ran down the side of the room, hiding behind the sofa, while Murillo and Tigran recovered from their personal fiascos. Murillo, still covered in red paint, looked like a giant tomato with legs, while Tigran, with gold glitter stuck to his scalp, looked like a disco ball from a children's party. The combination was so ridiculous that Theo could barely concentrate without laughing. "Who does this kid think he is?" Murillo complained, wiping the paint from his eyes and spreading even more paint. "I'm going to get him, I swear I will." Tigran, analyzing his surroundings, noticed that the golden glitter dripping from his own head left a trail on the ground. "Murillo, I think he threw glitter on purpose." "Glitter, man? Who uses glitter for self-defense?" Theo, hearing this from his hiding place, replied quietly, "A smart kid." Determined to find the intruder, the 2 began pacing the room, but the more discreetly they tried to act, the more of a mess they made. Murillo accidentally kicked the side table and knocked a decorative candle onto the rug. Tigran bumped his knee on the TV stand, letting out a groan so loud it sounded like a wolf's howl in pain. To Theo, those 2 were practically a living comedy act, but still dangerous. So he waited for the perfect moment. The moment the 2 started climbing the stairs again, Theo ran to the kitchen and activated another part of Operation Christmas Defense, the anti-theft system based on pans. He positioned himself behind the kitchen door, holding 2 frying pans as if they were shields. Murillo, his face completely red, forcefully opened the kitchen door and immediately slipped on the oil that Theo had spread on the floor earlier. The fall was cinematic. A spin in the air, an uncontrollable arm, a dramatic scream, and then, CHLAC! He landed right in the middle of the pots and pans that Theo had carefully positioned. The noise echoed throughout the house like the beginning of a disastrous orchestra. Tigran followed right behind and tripped over his fallen friend. The 2 scurried under the kitchen table, knocking over napkins, silverware, a packet of flour, and even the dish towel with the snowman design. Theo took advantage of the confusion and banged twice on the frying pans, as if announcing the next act of the show. "Welcome to my kitchen!" he shouted, using the deepest voice he could muster. Murillo and Tigran, terrified and completely clueless about where the sound came from, banged their heads together, trying to get out from under the table. When they finally got up, they were covered in flour, paint, and glitter. By this point, they looked like two grumpy, carnival-like ghosts. Theo ran back to the hallway outside the living room, knowing his next trap was the riskiest, the super special slide. He waited near the bottom of the stairs and fiddled with the speaker he'd taken from his sister's room. He turned on the most upbeat Christmas music he could find, something with bells, a children's choir, and that overly festive atmosphere. As the sound filled the house, he heard Murillo from the kitchen shout, "He's making fun of us!" And that was exactly what Theo wanted, to provoke him. The thieves advanced into the hallway, slipping every 3 steps, but determined. They were tired, dirty, angry, and completely distracted, and this was the perfect moment for Theo to activate the special trap upstairs, the bathroom door. As soon as Murillo put his hand on the doorknob and pulled hard, cham! A giant basin of ice-cold water fell directly on his head. It was as if he had taken a bath in the middle of Antarctica. The basin completely overturned, spilling liters and liters of water all over Murillo, who screamed so loudly that the whole house shook. Tigran tried to help him, but slipped on the water spilled on the floor and fell sitting down, splashing even more. Theo, laughing so hard he could barely breathe, ran to his sister's room, where one of the cleverest traps awaited him, the box of books tied together with string. But before the scene exploded, he saw through the half-open door an important detail. Murillo was so angry that he was now climbing the stairs with the determination of a raging bull. "Enough! I'm going to get that kid!" Tigran followed him, panting, looking like a mix between a ghost, a poorly made reindeer, and a melted snowman. When Murillo reached his sister's bedroom door, he pushed it open forcefully and, trom! The box of books collapsed right on his head. Books cascaded down. Novels, dictionaries, old diaries, all mixed together, and the thief staggered, trying to understand if the whole house was conspiring against him. Tigran carried a book on his shoulder and fell to the floor, complaining, "I just wanted presents, man. Why is this happening to us?" Theo then appeared in the hallway, wielding the walkie-talkie and calmly saying, "You broke into the wrong house." Their eyes widened at the sight of the boy. Finally, he was there, small, steady, with his red hat tilted to the side and an almost defiant smile. They didn't know that he was the one who had turned the night into a nightmare worthy of endless blooper reels. Murillo took a step forward, huffing, "Come here, you pest!" But this was exactly the moment Theo had been waiting for. He quickly retreated to his room and pulled the last trap, the super flying rope. A rope attached to the leg of the small table pulled the rug out from under the thieves, and the two fell together, embraced by the tragic and comical fate that only ingenious children can create. Theo ran to the stairs, descending 2 steps at a time, while the two tried to get up. The final plan was ready, the trap he had thought of from the beginning. He ran into the living room, opened the large back window, letting the icy wind and snow in. The 2 thieves, stumbling and slipping, came down after him. "Catch me!" Murillo shouted. Theo stopped right in the center of the room, picked up the Christmas tree remote, and pressed the button. All the lights flashed at once, and at that exact moment, the weight he had placed on the shelf came loose, a giant bag of Christmas balls. The balloon, filled to the brim, fell like a colorful avalanche upon the 2 thieves. Murillo disappeared beneath the pile of balloons, while Tigran tried to swim in the sea of decorations as if it were possible to escape that humiliation. The police arrived that very second, automatically called by the security system that Theo had finally remembered to activate 15 minutes earlier. The officers found the thieves trapped inside the avalanche of balls, glitter, paint, and flour, and at the top of the stairs, Theo holding the walkie-talkie with an air of mission accomplished. When asked what happened, he simply replied with the most innocent smile in the world, "I was just defending my home." And so, on that Christmas Eve, the whole city discovered that one should not play with a child's imagination when they are alone at home. Because Theo wasn't just clever, he was the king of traps, and he had just saved his own Christmas in an epic, chaotic, and utterly unforgettable way. And if this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone you love. Click now to share it. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories we're preparing with great care for you.